a guy of your experience. You've been part of many NHL clubs. You've been the head of a lot of NHL teams. You've probably seen it all. And Anthony Stolarz, after a, subpar first 6 games to the season, kind of in a roundabout way called out the effort and maybe one of the stars on the Maple Leafs and did it publicly in the media. What was your thoughts on that?
So I think I think anytime you bring something into the media that's inside the room, you're running the risk of noise. And certainly on a market like Toronto, New York's that type of market, just haven't left there. And so you run that risk. I've always been of the belief that you just take care of things inside of the room, and whether it's from a coach or from the players. But oftentimes there's a microphone in your face right after the game, and everybody's hot, and there comes times when you just kind of let loose and let it go, and it happens all the time in sports. And doesn't have to be hockey; it can be any sport. You get frustrated, you get irritated, and you let it rip. And usually it sorts itself out after that. But I've always just kind of listen. For me, everything, you try to address it. You try to put everything that you want to words, whether it's before the game, post game, during a practice, the next morning, whatever it might be. But I don't think it's wrong with giving a fair assessment of your team. Like Detroit just did that. Todd came out and he was point blank. I think they were 2-1, but he hated the way they were playing, and he just came out and he just called it what it was. And so it was, for me, that's just honesty. And I think that can be the best approach. But I do think that there's a time where you can let it rip in the paper. But, you're going to go down a road and start, talking to teammates. Sometimes those things I think they're better handled, in the locker room, in private.
Yeah, I thought it was a perfect storm. I was actually at the game, and you walk into the room, and Stoley's still taking some of his equipment off, and you can just sense it. And then he gets to the scrum, and right away he just lets it rip. But do you think there's any positives you can grab from a leader, a guy who's won the Stanley Cup in recent memory, just piping up and being like, "This is not good enough"?
No question. Oh, there's no question about that. Like, I think there's a standard inside of a room, and there's standard inside of players on what they expect, or at least you hope. That's what drive success. And so at least you hope that that there's an accountability level even amongst the players and coaches to players, management to coaches, whatever it might be. There's a standard, I think, that has to be kept. And so coming out and firing at your team because the effort's not correct or the effort's not right, I don't have any issue with that. I think that's normal. I mean, there's been times when I've gotten up, I was listening to you guys on the lead into me, but there's been times when I've gotten up in front of a microphone and I can't even speak. Like, I'm so mad. I'm so irritated and fired up about what didn't go right, the game that went wrong, the things that could have or should have happened, and you can hardly even speak. And I often find myself at those times saying nothing, and because I don't want to let the wrong thing rip either. But there's lots of times you just get there and you fire and you just call it what it is. If it's no good, it's no good, and there's no sense sugarcoating that. So there's a standard, I think, in successful teams. There's a culture and a standard that has to be met and has to be kept in order for that team to be successful. And so that's the honesty part of it.
And Lavi, don't you think that the response to the criticism is what's going to decide what that was? He called out Willie Nylander in a roundabout way. Okay, well, Willie could pout and make a big thing, or cold shoulder him in the lock, or he could be like, you know what, he's right. I didn't give my honest effort. I need to be better. I need to be a leader on this team. We could do something special here, and he's totally right. And he could take that approach to it, and then all of a sudden, what Stoley did is accurate, and it was proper, and it accomplished something, right? Don't you think that the reaction of the person taking the criticism is everything?
No, I definitely think that it can go either way too. So no, if it's a good response. You got full disclosure here. You got to keep everything in check here with me about Toronto. I'm not in Toronto. I'm the furthest thing. I'm on an island and just off of Florida. So you got to keep it in perspective when you're talking about the Toronto locker room or something that was said here. I like watching games. I did watch one of the Toronto games, and between everything that's on sports nowadays, it's tough. Like you got. I'm watching Pittsburgh because Dan Muse is there. I'm watching Chicago because Michael Peck is there, and I've seen some Ranger games, and other games have been on. And then you're watching football, and you got the baseball series on, and the Jays just had a huge win, and so there's a lot going on in the world. So keep in mind, I'm not completely up to speed on what you guys are hearing and seeing coming out of their locker room. Again, for me, the what you say, if you're honest, and it comes out with some purpose and some passion, I think that's a good thing. And for your team, it allows for a response. I also think that inside of that room, there can be honesty and there can be a standard that has to be kept. And whether it's a coach saying something or whether players to players saying something, I think all of that is real positive stuff in there. And it does allow for a response. It doesn't always work, but it does allow for a response.
It's always interesting, Lavi, like this time of year, like we're 6 games into the season and you look around the league, and especially because of this market, people feel and get this sense like the sky's falling because they're 3-2-1. Take us into the mind of like an NHL head coach, how you carry yourself on a daily basis and sort of, try to, instrument to your guys that, hey, it's a day-by-day process and you're looking to get stronger and stronger as the season goes on here.
So if you look at the standings right now, to your point, if you look at the standings, everybody's still in play. Nobody's worked themselves out, but it doesn't take long from where a team is at right now, if it's not where they want to be 12 games, 13 games into the season, and find themselves with 2 wins. And at that point, it becomes really difficult. And so I do believe that that having a steady mindset at the beginning, talking about the game that you're playing, the good, the bad, the things that are working, the things that need to be better, individual meetings, teammates, to get to your team to where it wants to be, because not everybody's where they want to be. I do think that it's still early for anything crazy, and like I said, most teams are still in it. Second place in the division could be 3-2, and 14th place, in a conference, 14th place could be 2-3. And so there's not that much going on yet. But, if that 1 win or 2 wins stays stationary for, the next 5 or 6 games, then it becomes a little bit alarming, because the season does get away from you quick too. So you got to make quick adjustments. You got to address things fairly quickly and get your team back on track.
Mm-hmm. Lavi, I just want to ask you personally, where your head's at. I had the chance to play for you a little bit after the lockout there in 13-14. I remember my exit meeting with you thinking that this was going to be the start of a long process, and me being in the NHL and part of the Flyers, and didn't work out quite that way for either of us, as you got canned 3 games into the season.
I did my job with you, though, Jay. I did my job with you. Hey, you were there.
Dude, I wanted to go through a wall for you.
It might have been my departure that was your demise. I don't know. Like,
well, I tell you, I respected the hell out of you. I saw you on 24/7 or whatever, and I was like, I want to play for this guy. Getting the chance to do it for a little while, I respected the hell out of you. Wanted to go through a wall for you. Got a 2-year deal playing with you, and was ready to rock. When you got canned, I thought, who's coming in here? And it was Berube. I thought that would be good for me, but it didn't turn out that way. But as we look back, everything woulda, shoulda, coulda, right? But when you look forward, you must have a lot to give, and I don't imagine your time coaching in the NHL is over. What's on the horizon for you?
So honestly, Jay, I'm down in Florida right now. Things ended in New York. When they ended, we ended up packing up. We went to New Hampshire. We spent a little bit of time up there with our families. We're from the New England area. And then we made our way down to Florida here. It was actually a good thing, I think, just to take a minute. It's been, when you're in it that long, which is, probably approaching 20, 25 years of straight go. I don't think it's a bad thing just to take a skip for a second and catch your breath. It allows you to reset. It allows you to, just to rejuvenate, to think about what you want to do if you do come back. And, right now for me, I'm honestly I'm just watching games. I'm talking to some of my friends around the league, some of my coaches and stuff like that, and just taking a minute, where it goes from here. Right now, there's nothing that's available. So there's nothing that I'm doing. There's nothing imminent right now for me, but, I do love my job and what I do. And so, we'll see what happens. Right now, I'm doing things like just a couple things. Like I went to a couple weddings. I don't think I've been to a wedding in 10 years, unless it's like in mid-July, late July, because the camp's coming or the season's ending or you're in playoffs. And so, you go to a couple weddings with your wife and your family, and that's something you haven't done in a while. I get to go to Scotland, and we just got back probably a couple weeks ago. So my daughter's dating a golfer that's on the Australian tour. He's from New Zealand. They met
Cool.
at Boston College, and they've been seeing each other for a while, and so they decided to meet her family over in Scotland. I get to walk St. Andrews and watch him play St. Andrews, and just some cool stuff that I haven't gotten a chance to do. So more than thinking about what's next, I've just been taking a minute just to enjoy what's on my plate and what's in front of me, because these are things that I haven't really gotten to do in the last 25 years, and it was awesome. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Scotland, but if you haven't, it's got to go on your bucket list, because it was a pretty cool place.
I've always wanted to
Yeah,
ask you. Go ahead, Rosie.
Sorry, I'm just not surprised. I'm a big golfer. I played over in Scotland, got to play the old course and all the open rotas. And my dream is for my kids to be a pro golfer. If I had a daughter, for her to be with a
Yeah.
pro golfer. So you're living the dream in my mind. It's pretty cool. You get to take a little reset, because I look at your hockey DB and it's like, oh my God, you've been going full throttle for, like you say,
Yeah.
20, 25 years. I imagine it's pretty nice to take a second to look at other things, and well-deserved as well.
It is. You know what? The one thing that I'm watching my daughter's boyfriend play golf, and what I'm learning about a golfer's mental toughness compared to maybe a hockey player's mental toughness. Not that there's not the same grind mentally when things are good and people are confident, and it makes it a little bit easier. But inside of that team sport, when the grind is going on and the confidence maybe isn't there the way you need it to be, you've got 17 other teammates and 2 goaltenders there to bail you out. And, you can move on from your tough day. The team can still get a win. You can reset and look for a better day tomorrow. Where when I'm watching the golf go on, and the mental toughness that has to go on from hole to hole, like the internal fight mentally, to stay focused, to put something behind you, to literally put something behind you, is amazing. And I give the golfers so much credit for being able to keep that focus and keep their mind where it needs to be in order to be successful. And it's amazing to watch. You're going into the last 9 holes, and you're 6 under, and you're in 3rd place, and you hit a double bogey, just one double bogey, right? Not even talking about the next holes, just to think about that drop in the standings, and then to have to regroup and then push forward from there to try and get back up and to continue to push it's pretty amazing. But he's a great kid. He's a really good golfer. And my daughter started playing golf. She actually played St. Andrews. She was a softball player at BC. So she could swing, like she could hit, but it was never a golf swing. It was always a softball swing. So she just started playing the last year. I got to give her a lot of credit, because she went over and played St. Andrews on an off day, and she shot a 92. So pretty impressive.
Good for her.
That's
She
good.
can play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't have the patience for golf. I mean, I go to all these events and I just never golf. I just go in the cart and have a drink, and I'm happy with that. I come from a baseball background as well. But just to wrap, I just want to get your general thoughts. I mean, you saw them up close last year, Craig Berube's Maple Leafs. What do you make of this team moving forward? Obviously, a pretty epic drought in this market, looking to push through finally in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, I know. So I think a really good hockey team, a really good coach. I think Chief's done a super job in the NHL, obviously successful where he's been. And so, good coaches are in place. I think there's really good players. Like I said, I've watched one game this year, but I'm looking at their roster, and there's just an awful lot of names that are just familiar, really familiar from being in the Eastern Conference so much and playing against them. The one thing that I really like about a team that's going to be successful is the defense. I think about some of the teams that I've gone far with, and so Carolina won, and it had real steady defensemen. It had Glenn Wesley, it had Brett Hedican, it had Frank Caberlet, Thomas's brother, and he had a real good year that year. And so we just had real good players. Mike Commodore had a great year that year. Aaron Ward came in and gave us really big minutes, but they were big, they were strong, they were, we had speed and skill. Eric Stahl was a rookie. Andrew Ladd was a rookie. And so the youth and the speed up front, and we had two good goaltenders, and Cam Ward ran with it net, but it goes back to the defense. When we were in Philadelphia and we went to the finals, it was Timonen and Coburn, it was Pronger and Matty Carl, and they were the top four, and they were dogs. Like, they took down 27 minutes a night for us and stayed healthy for really the entire year. And then even going back to Nashville, the big four there were PK and Matthias Ekholm. And you see in Eckie's, you're seeing really what a player he is as he's in Edmonton, and they've got a high-flying, dynamic team, and you see how big and strong and how well he plays the game defensively. And so you had, those two guys, and then you had Roman Josi and Ryan Ellis. And so there was, again, really good, solid four. And so I like their D and their D pairings that they have. And the goaltending's been solid. I mean, it played great in the night that I watched against New York. So I think they've got good pieces and a good team in place. And I understand the market, just leaving New York, I understand the market and I understand the expectation. But this is a new year, and every team does it every year by going through the wars and going through the grind and feeling the nastiness of a loss or the ugliness inside of the room, or like you had mentioned a player talking to another player, whatever it might be. And that's where there's room for growth and to get better, to build, to become something, to become the team that you want to be. And that's kind of where it's at right now. Everybody's in the beginning processes of that. So, for me, it's an opportunity for really what looks like a good group on paper to come together as a team, make noise, and take the steps that everybody in Toronto wants them to take. So that's kind of the way I see it.
For sure. Well, hey, we appreciate your perspective on it, Lavi, and I hope you're enjoying the time that's so well deserved. But selfishly, we hope to see you behind the bench someday soon, and maybe we'll have you on again to talk about that. So thanks very much. We appreciate it.
All right. Great chat, guys. Take care.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.